Hello, and welcome to the $1 Million Electrician Podcast, where we help home service pros like you supercharge your business and spark up those sales.
I'm Joseph Lucani, and together with my co-host, Clay Newmeyer, we're here to share the secrets that have helped electricians sell over $1 million from a single service van.
Now, it's time for sales. It's time for scale. It's time to become $1 million electrician. All right, guys, welcome back. It has been one heck of a 2024 big year, and today we've got a 2-year anniversary with our client and now coach ambassador, Dan Totten, who's back to tell us not only how he grew from the 1.1 million 1 year ago, almost exactly a year ago today, but grew his company now to 2.65, I believe you said, million in 2024, Dan. And that's just your second full-time or full year in business. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So it's been about a year now. We over doubled last year, so it was a huge growth for us.
It's massive, man. It's massive. And so what you guys can expect on this episode, we're going to get right into this because we have a ton of topics, a ton of stuff to talk about. How one of Dan's techs broke Joe's record, just over 1.3 million in 2024 in sales. How Dan's team was able to do all of this on Jobber as a CRM, not be distracted by the shiny objects. How they're beginning to transition now to Service Titan. If you've ever thought if Service Titan's right for you, this would be a great episode to listen to. Dan's thoughts on Zero AI. As you guys know, we did an interview recently. Dan's been chatting with them as well and getting excited to move his team to it. Something I'm super fond of. Dan runs 2 CSRs. We've got 2 people in the office helping that team, and he's got some great feedback for that. Dan's worked with Joe 1-to-1, so he's going to give you some insights on that and insights on what it's like to be a client coach ambassador. Dan, you just purchased, I think you said before this call, your ninth service van. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got 2 more heading this way. New vans to get set up, where a primary of last year we had 5 to 6 vans. So coming to the end of the year and starting this one off, we're definitely ready to give it a good run. So
that's
I
remarkable.
can't stress how proud of you I am. It's absolutely amazing that how far and how fast you've been taking this.
One of the things I think we touched on maybe a year ago, but if not, I know you've talked about it in classes. What kind of vans do you buy and why?
yeah, we buy the Mercedes Sprinter vans. It's something where when we first started, we looked at the Ford Transits, we looked at the Pro Masters, we looked at the Sprinters, and from a price comparison, they're very close. And from my aspect of a premium service provider, it just, the Mercedes pops out. It looks really good. They're really nice riding vehicles. They're comfortable. They've got the same room. They popped out to me. We got a good connection with a local dealer that happens to be living in the same state for us. That's the regional manager, so we made a really good connection with them early on. And at this point now, they already have all the settings saved for exactly what we want for build out. You make a phone call, and he said, "Hey, sounds great. I'll drop it by the shop." He comes by, with a loaded trailer, unloads it right in front of the shop, and hands us the keys. So it's really smooth.
Talk about premium service, even in your dealer. I love that. Like, you don't have to do a single thing. I'll just bring you the keys, and you just got to sign your name.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know a lot of electricians get stuck on the rent versus buy versus lease, financing of vans. What do you guys choose to do, Dan, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, absolutely. So we end up buying these vans, and it's one thing where we do loan them out. Most of the time early on, we were putting significant down payments on. It's something where it's like we could pay for them, but leveraging the money, the last couple that we have, we found that the dealerships actually give really good deals towards the end of the year. So these vans, totally interest free for the full duration of them, 0 interest, 0 money down. Hey, here's a van. So we use that payment to basically just look at it like, hey, this is just a rental fee of having this van, but it's 0% interest, and that's pretty cheap money. So we're basically taking them, loading them out, getting all the shelves and their tools, material. We have exact lists for every single van. We just copy paste it to our people, say, hey, look, we need this, and then it shows up a couple days later, build them out. So
it seems like you're almost playing with free money in that situation, because if it's 0 down and 0% interest, you have absolutely nothing to lose. And the fact that you're having a training in place to get your team ready to go out and convert very quickly, it's not going to take very long for you to recoup and just be able to make that per month.
Yep, absolutely.
If it weren't for this premium service effort that you're on, do you think you'd still buy the Mercedes?
When I first started and before I was, fully up with everything, I just had a little 40 Econoline. I still have it actually to this day, and it's loaded out with tools. It doesn't really get used much, but it's more of the spare van in case someone gets in a, car accident or, breaks down or something like that, which is going to be pretty rare for a couple-year-old van, but we just have it as a spare. I was working with that one for a while, and I looked at the Ford Transits and I looked at the Pro Masters, and it just, from the price per value, the maintenance might be a little bit more with the Mercedes, but I just think it's a better vehicle and it's so close in price that may as well, in some aspects, they have higher availability too, depending on who the dealer is. So
Have you still shopped around with other brands? Do you know the price difference out of curiosity?
it really depends. What I've found is that our specific dealer we work with is a Swicker dealer. So they do Mercedes, they do Toyota, they do Hondas, they do a wide range of them, but their main one is Mercedes. So these two vans that we have actually coming, a lot of them are converting to EV, and it's not something that we're really interested in at this point. So these specific ones are actually coming from Alaska. So they put them on a boat and they're bringing them to us for the same price as the other ones and saying, hey, look, these are our last two gas ones, unless you want to pre-order them for the following year, which you can't even get your hands on right now. So they're slowly converting to diesel only and electric. So they actually put them on a boat and sent us to us and said, okay, you need a couple more vans, we'll bring them to you. We have them at our Alaska dealership. So it's awesome.
Nice. Nice. Really good stuff. All right. So jumping into the nitty gritty of this, help us understand how your field staff are positioned for you to have grown so much to over double your revenue from 1.1 to 2.65. I mean, that's substantial. Are there different tiers? Or are these just service techs out there that sell and do their own work? Or what does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're currently right now, we've got two guys that are mainly doing opportunity demand calls, what we call them, but sales and service is really the primarily of that. We've got one guy that's in training right now that is converting over, so he should be full-time sales within the next week or two. So we'll have three vans selling, in theory, doing demand and opportunity calls, meaning service calls, sales calls, things like that. And then at that point, we'll also have three vans potentially doing the work. So installers, if you will. Two of them have apprentices, one don't, just for a decent ratio in case one guy's not there, then we don't have an extra apprentice. And then we also have two CSRs in the office. Basically, the phone rings one of them, and if they're on the other line, it rings to the next one. So one of them's more back end, focuses almost strictly on marketing, back end doing payroll, things like that, accounting. And then from the front end, she takes care of all the scheduling, answers every single call. And if she's on the other line, then it's kind of having a backup. So that's been a huge asset for us as well.
Really good. Really good. And have you been in the field in 2024 then to make sales as well? Or have you transitioned out? What does that look like for you?
Very minimal. Last year, I was definitely a fair amount in sales. Um, as far as 2024 in its whole, there was a few calls that I did here or there. It's mainly ones that were like, hey, we really need someone out there. For whatever reason, hey, we got a whole home generator. Well, the sales guys are booked out a couple weeks. We just need to get out there. We've got, a service upgrade. We need something. I'll definitely hop in when we need to if we have someone that calls in. For the most part, I'm stepping back to just a visionary position where I'm in the office most of the time, filling in for trainings, check-ins, things like that. We'll have regular check-ins with each individual on the team, see how they're doing. I definitely talk with the sales guys mostly, but from most standpoints, since they're the ones selling the jobs, they're kind of from a project manager standpoint, they're the ones that are getting the material, they're setting up the jobs. If the installers have any questions, and they're calling them directly.
Wow. Wow. So if you had to guess, like how much of the sales do you think you did yourself in 2024?
I would say 5% maybe, a very small amount.
Oh, wow. Okay. So pretty
That's really
small.
amazing.
Yeah, 10% maybe at max, I would say.
And it sounded like maybe I misunderstood, but it sounds like you've got really two main sales guys then in the field doing most of the opportunity calls.
Yep, opportunity calls, and then they also do service calls as well. They pretty much just look at 3 to 4 calls a day, just depending on what they are. If they're demand calls, we'll kind of hedge it down a little bit. If they're opportunity calls and really close together, then we can get 4 in.
And if one did 1.3 out of the 2.65, does that mean that the other one's also roughly $1 million selling tech?
Yeah, really close to it. He's right around 900,000 for last year. We have, other fees that kind of build those numbers up, and some of it is, subcontractors here or there, or making profit on generators or things like that that aren't necessarily associated in that, dispatching fees, membership fees, things like that that might not be associated with that. But both of them are, one's over 1 million, one's just under, so really close.
Wow. Okay. Well, this is really remarkable. And both these fellas are training with Joe, right? You're doing some one-to-one stuff with them, Joe. What's your take on working with these guys?
It's rare to find students who make it, like, I want to say they clicks, but they want it. You can tell very, very early that it's not that they just want to learn how to sell, is that they want to learn how to do better at their jobs and how to really help the customers. So when I talk about them with building options, they have a really good perspective because they're able to say, well, hey, I know that this person really wanted this, and I want to try and find a way to get them for it. And that's great. They have good character. They've got good determination. They're following the process the right way. I'm very, very proud of them, and I'm grateful for the honor to serve.
So something I've heard in industry, maybe you guys have heard this before. A lot of owners with experience might call this even like these guys are whales. Someone that comes in, they really rise the tide for you because they displace so much, right? They just do so much with such little effort. That's almost incomparable sometimes. I think we have trouble comparing the big sales tech to the service guys in a lot of regards, if that makes sense. But the thing is, when that whale leaves, a lot of guys kind of fear the whale in that regard, and they just aim for the even keel service techs that can really just kind of keep chugging along, right? In this case, you've got two, Dan. And so it's a really interesting case. But do you feel they're maxed out?
No, absolutely. And looking at the numbers for how the year started to how the year ended, it's just an uphill thing where it's like, oh, hey, I hit 150K this month out of this van. Oh, got 115 this month. When they first started, it may have been 80, 90. It's a progression thing. So coming into this year, if we can keep that progression going, even stay where we're at, I mean, those are great numbers, but it's all uphill from here as well.
I wanted to add one additional thing to that because I personally want to vouch to say that they're not done. And here's why. The reason being is that my whole goal, being able to create, people who could sell 1.3 like myself, I want that to be the floor of what's capable. And I really, really feel that your techs have every potential of being better than me. And I'm incredibly grateful for that. Like, that makes me happy because it means that we're good at our jobs. I want people to be better than me. I want to make that the standard. So just the fact that they're able to produce and really serve at a very professional level, a real honor to be able to help that.
Yeah, it's massive. It's massive. So you can see them growing. You mentioned that there's some stuff that helps them fluff that up. One of the words or terms you used was subcontractors. Just to be clear, though, like what percentage of your work is residential service, would you say?
Realistically, probably close to 95%. We have these commercial jobs that slide through, but anything that's more than a week or two worth of work, we're pretty much just kind of passing on to the next guy. I mean, when I started this a couple of years ago, I had a huge background in commercial, a fair amount of residential as well, but mainly commercial based. And our lead sales tech that's at 1.31, before he started with me, he never touched a piece of Romex before. He started, and I just knew he was an awesome guy. And I said, look, you can ride in the van with me for a month and you'll be my apprentice and we'll figure this out. I'm going to teach you how to wire houses. And now he's selling 1.31 million within 2 years of just learning residential. So before that, he'd never wired a home before. He's like, oh yeah, I've, receptacles, can lights. I mean, that's about it, in my own house a couple times. But other than that, he's just been done big industrial buildings, commercial and things like that. So,
So he was never trained sales before.
Never sales, never wired residential homes. He's never wired a whole home start to finish. So in order to sell those jobs, I mean, it was a big learning curve off the bat. And even to this day, there's still little learning curve, little things, where some of the guys that, are coming onto the team have been wiring homes for 20 years. They've got a really, really good background, but he's just such a good guy. He connects really well with other people and he's a really quick learner and a real hustler too. So it helps.
That's amazing. And it sounds like you're building a great culture there. Really good stuff. We touched on, you being able to do this all on Jobber. And most people kind of disregard Jobber as maybe the simplest CRM at kind of an even rate to House Call Pro. Did you also mess with House Call Pro in the beginning? Why did you ultimately choose Jobber?
I got a trial of both of them. I did both of them at the same time, just messing around with them. And I just like the look of Jobber better. It just seemed like, this is just clicking with me. It's very easy to use. There's a lot of features that have expanded since then. But I mean, up until this point, I mean, really, they're still even great to this day to use. Everything's working really well. I just see the growth in the near future going, hey, we're adding a couple more vans on. We've already interviewed the people, the prospects that are going to join us. And I'm just looking at it going, hey, look, there's a reason why the people that have 5 or 10,000 reviews that have been around for 20 years are on Service Titan. And, that's where, we're pushing to be at some point. So that's where I'm seeing it just getting a little hectic at this point. But up until this point, I mean, even as of right now, 2.6 million last year, I'm very confident in Jobber and everyone really loves using it. So.
That's remarkable. I've gone on record saying a few times, like, I love how easy it is to just bring into, especially a business that doesn't have Jobber. By the way, Jobber doesn't sponsor us yet. They could. Maybe we'll send this interview to them. It's just my personal experience going into different home service companies. You could take a team of 5 who are all paper-based, haven't had a CRM before. On Monday, sign up for Jobber, and by Wednesday, have full adoption, people using it for scheduling and dispatching and the whole thing. So I know it falls short in many places for people. Where do you see the limitations of Jobber, Dan, when you start to say, well, maybe we're maxed out here and Service Titan's the way now?
A good portion of it is just when you have a physical day on there, and when you've got so many users, we'll be up to 12 users here soon. It just looks like a rainbow, and at times, when it says 7:30 here and you've got a bunch of different people on there at 10 o'clock here, it's just a lot to look at. So, Service Titan has ways with when the CSR gets a phone call, it could say next available time, and you can book the time slots, which is going to be a huge asset. And we found ways to adapt around it where we'll put, tasks at the top of the schedule saying, hey, look, we've got openings this day, and then we'll just delete them as we go. And it really has worked out quite well. Certain things like KPI tracking through Service Titan, really looking forward to that. There's definitely a lot of other things that they have, but Jobber is adapting day to day too, and they're getting better and better. So it's something where, they learn from other CRMs as well. So they're definitely adapting. Their schedule is changing and it's getting better. So it's hard to say. I mean, for some people, they could probably take it to where exactly where we are now, possibly even longer. It's hard to say in a year where they're going to be at. So.
You mentioned KPIs. So if Jobber doesn't have that great a sales KPI for service, what have you done to adapt to that then?
We've got one that SLE made in-house. You guys have one that we use, and we've had great luck with it. So the CSRs will put in there, key in there every single job that we have, whether it's sold, unsold, what option they pick through, and we really love it. So it's something we'll probably use both, and see how Service Titan adapts, and if it's going to fill our needs, then we'll just disregard it and go that. But up until this point, I mean, we're still going to use your guys' KPI that we've been using for the last 2 years. And then if we feel like Service Titan's top notch and can, be at that same level, then we'll say, okay, well, we need to just pick one at this point. But up until then, until we're really confident, and we're just going to keep plugging numbers into both. So
thanks,
nice.
Brother. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's a good plan. You never want to lapse in that KPI. How has the KPI helped, if you don't mind, just candid review here? How has that helped you guys with your focus and your sales and your understanding of what's going on out there?
I look at it every single day. I look at it, check and see how we're doing as far as call volume. I can look on there and say, okay, well, last month we were averaging 12 calls a day or 15 calls a day. Now this month we're only getting 7 calls a day. I can look at where the calls are coming from. Oh, hey, it looks like Facebook's been hitting really big this month. Oh, Google's down a little bit. I look at it and say, okay, well, so-and-so's not selling really well this month. Maybe it's, why is that reason? Oh, it looks like we ran a lot less calls this month. Oh, he was sick. He was off. We only ran 20 calls this month. Oh, this one we ran 50 calls. Okay, that makes sense. You can look at the close ratios, average tickets. I mean, all of it really plays a huge role.
Massive. Sounds like it helps you make decisions in your business then.
Absolutely. It's definitely something I look at directly, if we're having issues with salespeople or someone that had a really good month, really good weeks, I try to key on that and say, man, things are going really well. What's changed this month from last month? Some say oh, I just had a lot of generator calls. I just had a lot of service upgrades. I'm not
Mhm.
sure. Some of them just say, man, things are just clicking. You'll notice sometimes when that confidence builds up,
Mhm.
a lot of them will be paired closer where, oh man, you just had 4 really good days in a row. I don't think that it's exactly the call. You had a really high confidence week and you're on fire, you're building them up. So I'll definitely congratulate the guys and try and key in on that as well.
I love that you're doing that. And the fact that you're so focused on KPIs, it brings back to the statement of what gets measured gets managed. And the reason why I feel like that's really worth bringing up is because it also keeps your eye on the scoreboard of where you need to be. Now, luckily, your team has been really, really good at progressively moving the ball forward. But at least the fact that you're constantly on your KPI would determine, okay, now what is the consistency? What's changing? And how do we get them back on path? So I love that you're really dedicated to that as well.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So with the Service Titan transition, and we'll put this one to bed, I am curious though, what are you most excited about? Why not stay with Jobber? Why this time to transition? Help us understand that.
Next year we're hiring a lot of people right at the start of this year, so I want to fire things off running, and I know that we're gonna need it at some point. And I think right now, before we're getting new guys in, may as well get that transition rolling as soon as possible. I think the scheduling aspect is going to be a huge thing. I know that right off the start, it's definitely going to be a little bit of a headache transferring everything over. They've got some key features that I'm really looking forward to. The scheduling is one of it where it's like, oh, hey, we can book certain time slots in there. Okay, when's the nearest available? When's the nearest available? That's going to be a really big one for us. KPI tracking. I think the scoreboard is going to be really big to where the techs can see the KPI actively live every single week, every single day, every single month, so they can say, hey, look, so and so's doing this, I'm doing this. Where's my numbers at? Not to put competition into it directly, but if you put it open so everyone can see it, it seems like something where like, oh, this is motivating. Maybe I can do this. Maybe I can do that. I want the techs to work together and be team driven, but at the same time, a little friendly competition is always fun.
Nothing
Yeah.
wrong with having to compete against each other. As long as you're all moving the ball forward together, let them compete.
And that seems like a really natural progression to this AI ride along software. We've been talking with Zero, of course, built partnership with them and bringing that in house. Dan, I know you're one of the many that were very excited about that. How do you see this AI ride along software helping you and your team progress and beat these already amazing sales records?
It'll be really great being able to, right off the bat when we implement it, we're definitely going to give it a little bit of time. I'm not just going to look at it and be like, hey, you said this word, you said this word. I'm definitely going to let it kind of do its own thing for a little bit and then kind of reassess where we're at, key some little things in, let it help them. But I'm really excited to bring it into the meetings with Joe so he can listen to them. We have bi-weekly one-on-one meetings with directly our sales guys. So that'll be a huge help for us. I'm definitely looking forward to being able to help the guys a little bit. There's times where they run into specific service calls they're having issues with, or maybe verbiage and things like that, that I definitely can help key in on. So I'm looking forward to listening back to it and seeing, hey, how'd this call go? How did this go? If there's anything I can help, then I'm really looking forward to doing that.
Dan, it's cool that you and I actually share that because I was thinking that's the one thing I'm excited for when it comes to working with your team as well, because they're already great. Like they're already really, really good techs. But the fact that we're going to be able to hear exactly what the customers are saying, it's going to be like having me right behind them every single call. And we can give them exact feedback of the customer said this, you said this, but they were really saying that. And being able to give that extra depth, like I think it's going to be game changing for your team.
Something's come up for me that wasn't necessarily in our list of topics here, but I'm actually really curious. So I'm going to put you on spot here for a moment. At this point, doing 2.65 million in sales, you're not using a price book, right?
No, we don't have any price book. So we basically have a service rate that, we got from Service Loop Electrical when we first started. We went through the pricing and where we need to be as far as our direct company, and the guys are able to basically build their prices themselves on the spot.
So candidly, I mean, I want to hear from your perspective at this point. Do you see yourself moving to a price book anytime soon with the transition to Service Titan and everything that you guys are doing, or is that even on the radar for you?
I've heard Service Loop really likes their price book and they really like people to use that, but I'm going to push against that as much as possible just because I really like the simplicity and the guys really flow well with this
Mhm.
specific system. Not to say I won't look into it or, do some studying myself and see how it looks, but at this point, I'm not planning on switching over.
Interesting. Do you worry about how accurate your guys' estimates are and their ability to quote service work, or is that become a concern for profitability? Like at 2.65, are you guys just breaking even? Like, tell me about that in your experience.
No, I mean the business was really profitable last year. We made great margins. And it's something we check on every single job. They put in the notes, hey, here's what I put in for material, here's what I put in for time. We look back and we have post-call facts built into jobber notes where the guys fill them
Mhm.
out. How long did it take? Is there anything you wish you would have known before you got here? Did you ask for review? And it's a little checklist. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Any notes for the estimator, maybe? Oh, hey, it would have been nice to know that I just didn't have this specific breaker. I didn't have this. So not something to throw them under the bus, but just something they can learn from and they can look back and say, oh, okay, yeah, for the next one, I should put that note in there for the guys, or I should make sure to have this because they lay out the material. They set it up and everything. So if anything they forgot, then just sharpen the pencil for the next one a little bit. If we're over on one a little bit, under on one, as long as we're, meeting in the middle, then we're looking really good.
What do you think of that question, Joe? I love that first question you mentioned that's in the post call facts. Anything you wish you would have known before you got here?
The thing that stood out most, and the reason why I don't know if you guys caught me beaming in the background, was that I'm thinking of it and saying you're either winning or you're learning in that setup. There's no possible way to lose because you win means you sold the job. Great, everything's done. But then you coming into it and saying, well, what could I have known that I wish I could have known? That will allow you to have a better process going into it. So every time you miss something, you now incorporate it into your process, which makes every future call better. So it's kind of like an ever sharpening tool. It just makes itself better just by using it. So I love that. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I love having a skill set over a crutch because I feel it gives us the market advantage. So obviously we're biased here, but it's something that we've also referenced as the casino principle,
Mhm.
which is to say it's not that people don't leave the casino with pockets full of, even people leaving with a briefcase full of cash.
Mhm.
People do go up sometimes, and in residential service, price book or not, they get one up on us in value too. Dan, are you the type of company that will try to come back and renegotiate a price if you find something that you didn't realize was first there with the estimate, or do you guys keep your price locked in and complete the service as originally agreed upon?
No, we complete the service every time. It's something where if we say a price, that's what we're standing by, and that's what we're going to do, and that's part of it. Some people say it's an estimate, as in like it's an estimated cost, but whatever we go out there, this is a firm price. This is what we're doing it for. Um, Even if something drastically changes, if it's on something that we could have foreseen or we missed, then we're going to eat it every time.
Yeah. And I love that. And that ties in perfectly because a casino doesn't operate on hopium, right? That nasty drug hopium. It operates on principles of mathematics and just doing the math and making sure that the house is going to win. And I think every business needs that strength. We've got to know. We've got to do the math. We have to set our pricing right, as you said, Dan. And I'm super pumped for you, man. I think that's obviously worked really well to get you to where you're at today. That said, two CSRs you mentioned. Tell us about these roles. You said one's a little more front end, one's a little more back end. They both answer the phones. At what point did you even realize you needed a second in the office? And how has that gone since you've transitioned to two?
Starting this year, we just had the one CSR, or I guess last year, it's January 22nd now, but last year, basically, we decided, hey, look, this phone's just ringing too much. We need to get a second person in there just to answer the phones. But the biggest thing that I was trying to leverage was, well, how much could you spend into marketing and have someone there full time to say, hey, look, my biggest focus is going to be strictly marketing. I mean, coming into this last year, we never touched Google ads. We never paid any kind of advertising. We simply wrapped our vans. We have our uniforms. Other than that, then we were completely organic for the entire last year. We never paid for any kind of marketing, and a big portion of that is from where our calls are coming from. So CSR number two really focuses on marketing. There's a lot of, she does accounts payable. She does, um, gets all the guys paid salaries, hourly and things like that. So we get that taken care of. But, she takes care of all kinds of payroll as far as marketing, things like that. But she just answers the phone if the other one's on the line. So our main person, Kylie, that's in there, she does a great job and she's got a really good background. She actually was a business owner previously before coming into this. So she's great as far as scheduling goes. I mean, in a lot of ways, she's, really navigating the ship. The phone calls come in. She's the main front line for taking those, and she really sets the guys up for success. So
we can vouch for them, right? Kylie and Caitlin, we've seen them in many classes. Kylie is just so dedicated to your brand and the success of DT Electric. I mean, she seems really unshakable in that. Please, Joe, jump in, brother.
Yeah, I was going to say, when it comes to those two, I have to give a particular shout out because I literally just gave them a shout out in class yesterday. And this is why. They're CSRs, but their dedication to your team and to the progression of your team is like nothing I've ever seen. They come to options class with no need to build options. They come to role play classes for the techs, just so they understand that the techs are doing their job better. They come to marketing. They come to operations. They're in everything. And the thing is, having that level of dedication is almost contagious. Like I see that people want to be more like them. So Dan, you have an amazing team with you, but I feel like your main strength is just attracting these A players and motivating them to become their highest selves, because those two are absolute rock stars.
Quite a team around you. Quite a team around you. Maybe Dan's going to be the first one to master 6 options from the inbound call.
Yeah, they're definitely really good. And when they came in, or when Kylie first started, we didn't really have a whole lot. It was just me, 2 other guys, and I was answering the phones. And when she first started, it was like, well, we're gonna have to answer the phone, and I didn't really have a whole lot of tasks. And now at this point, I mean, it's permits, it's ordering generators, it's answering the phone, scheduling. With someone that has no electrical setup at all, doesn't really know anything about it. I mean, she's really adapted pretty far as that goes. I mean, she can talk to inspectors. She knows a lot of the sizing things. I mean, not an electrician by trade, but when the guys call and have issues, I'm running into this, I'm running into this. I mean, she really understands what needs to go. I mean, she coordinates all the subcontractors, what it's going to take, timing. I mean, it's definitely a huge asset.
I love that. Yeah. And you mentioned the marketing role that they have. I know in the last episode that we did together 1 year ago, you'd basically done 1.1 million organically, right? And you just mentioned ad spend again. Have you increased? Are you spending on ads now, or is it still a mostly organic push? Tell us about your marketing efforts today.
Yeah, we were full organic for the entire 2.6. So we never turned Google ads on. We never paid for any marketing. We just have the van wraps. We have our uniforms. A good portion of our leads are Facebook. There's a few other ways, Nextdoor, Reddit. There's, Caitlin really goes through all these different forums. Refresh goes through them, Instagram stories. She posts on there every single day, stories, posts, things like that. So really hits that hard, where we previously had someone taking care of marketing that did a good job, but having someone that's directly attached, goes through all of our pictures. She goes to job sites, takes pictures, things like that. We hit that really, really hard. So really leveraging that second CSR to where we don't have, any kind of monthly fees for marketing, SEO, anything like that. 100% organic at this point.
Wow.
2.6 full organic. Clay, did it blow your mind as well?
Yeah. Let me ask you a question too. Do you think that you'd be able to grow at this level without all the social media posts and the efforts there on the, dare I say, free side? Because I know it takes time, right? There's an investment still. It's just, like you said, an in-house investment. Do you think you'd be this far and this able to scale that quickly without it?
Definitely not. I mean, it is something where, in the future, I can definitely see us turning on a couple of these other things. I have a huge wide array of things that I've gotten the books for. Hey, look, here's when we're going to really crank it up. So as we're getting a couple more vans here, realistically this week. So when in the next month or 2, we should have them rolling. I've got a lot of things up my sleeve as far as cranking that up a notch. But up until this point, I mean, Facebook's been a huge, really a leader for us, and the leads that we get are so good. Everyone that calls, oh man, everyone was ranting and raving about you guys on there. Here's why I called. By the time we get there, the close rate's going to be so much higher because they already like us. If it's someone random on Google, oh, I saw you on Google and it said recommended, so I called you. I mean, those can be pretty good leads as well, but in theory, I mean, if you have a recommendation or a referral for someone else, they're going to be much better, especially if their friend used us and said, oh, DT Electric is so great to work with. Oh, that's my friend. They like you. I'm on Facebook. Someone else comments you. I mean, there's huge odds that they're going to use you as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of social validation with your brand where it seems like when people want to work with you, they enjoy referring you as well. And that's really, really cool because in fact, you're so much on social media, you're really creating this like almost this presence where people get to know you without ever having to meet you. And because of that, they already like, trust, and respect you. Because that's already the case, their close ratio is naturally just going to be higher because you are the person they want to work with compared to this stranger they don't know.
What do you feel overall as an average they're ranting and raving about? When someone says DT, why are they so excited about working with you guys?
I would say quick turnaround time. Generally, we can squeeze people in pretty fast, and that's at times we're so busy that that does become an issue at times for us. But we always try and squeeze people in as much as we possibly can. But it's always the service at the end of the day. They rant and rave about the service, whether we're it's not saying we're going to be the least expensive one. We might not get there the absolute soonest, but we're going to try and give them the best price we possibly can, get there as soon as we can. But no matter what, their service is going to be great. The phone gets answered instantly if they have any questions. The guys go there on time every single time, and if there's anything that we can do to make their service any better, we call them before, we call them after. I mean, there's a lot of check-ins before and after to make sure they had a great experience, and I think that's really the biggest part.
Predictable
Before and
service keeps you
after.
coming back.
Yeah, and the before and after caught my attention there too. So even after calls, you guys follow up with your clients as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So before the call, I mean, we're checking in on quotes, anything like that. As soon as it gets approved, we're calling them to schedule. Before that, we call them in advance and just double check, hey, that day's still working for you. We're coming at this time. When they're on their way, they text them that they're coming. Hey, we're arriving in 15 minutes. We're arriving in 30 minutes. They show up and do the work. And then after the work's completed, the office will also call and check in. Hey, how was your experience? Did everything go well? Any, notes for us, any questions, anything like that? They'll give a good check-in, a happy call and make sure that everything went well. And if anything didn't, then we're going to make it perfect.
Love the commitment. Yeah, that's really good. At one point, we brought in one of our friends, I guess, in industry experts in Google business profiles, and they brought up some heat mapping, and we were talking about your brand as one of the examples that we used. And on that heat map, with just a couple of the keywords that we used, it looked like you guys were really highly ranked all over your specific target market as well. Is that stuff that you've just done in-house then? And what efforts do you guys take to keep your ranking high on Google?
Yeah, absolutely. So in Oregon City, is directly where our office is located. We're number one on the list as far as that goes. And there's some people that have more reviews, different things like that. But there's a lot of things that play into it. I mean, we regularly post pictures every single week on our Google page. We're getting reviews regular. We have QR codes on the back of the guys' iPads that, they ask how their experience was. If they had a good experience, they're asking for them in person. So it builds those reviews up. To this point, we've only had 5-star reviews, so that's definitely a thing that plays into it as well. But huge market on there. There's certain applications that you can get that'll help you kind of refine that. Hey, I noticed on your page you're lacking a description on this. You're lacking this. You're lacking this. You can go through and actually fix those things, change those things, and kind of adapt that where you are located plays a big portion in that. So, if we were in the heart of Portland or a nearby city, it's a little bit higher to rank over there. It's a little bit easier. So where we're at right now in Oregon City, I mean, being number one, and there's a whole lot of electricians there. That's definitely great.
Did I hear you correctly when you said you only have 5-star reviews?
Yep. We don't have anything less than 5 stars. So not to say we haven't, had one or two that went through, but no matter what, oh, hey, we had a bad experience. We've always reached out to those people, made it right one way or another. And, a lot of them converted to 5 stars. We had some people that, said, oh, hey, you guys came out. And it was like, oh, no, we're DT electric, not green tree electric, or we're not this electric. Oh,
Mm.
okay. Yeah, sorry. I thought you were someone else. You never called me back. No, we're on schedule for Tuesday for an estimate. Okay, perfect. We go out there and end up doing the work. So we've had a couple of those fall through, but nothing crazy. But at this point, I mean, we just have 5 star reviews. So
I'm incredibly proud of you to do that because it takes a lot of consistency. It's not just someone who swings for the fences. To have constant 5 star service that doesn't quit requires you to be very, very diligent in either following the processes or just knowing how you're going to do the thing on a daily basis. Like, do you have anything in particular that helps you with that consistency?
it's something that we really just hit the guys hard. Soon from the day that we interview them,
Mhm.
a weekly check-in, monthly check-in. I mean, anytime we have meetings, our biggest thing is just great customer service. I tell the guys, hey, if it's going to take a little bit longer, if we're going to have to put in a little bit extra effort, if we have to go back there, at the end of the day, the customer's number one. Our reputation is number one. If we just give everyone the best, highest service, then that's really what we're trying to do. I want their house to be safe. I want them to be cleaned up perfectly. I want them to have a great experience. And there's certain customers that aren't as easy to work with, but no matter
Mhm.
what, we're going to make them the best experience we possibly can.
Yeah. White glove service is you showing up your best self every time for them. And it seems like that's what you're doing.
Something Joe called attention to, and I think this will take us to the final stretch here, guys, is I
Mhm.
just want to address your magnetism, Dan.
Mhm.
There's something about you that you just keep bringing good people your way, and people keep realizing that the people around you are magnetic as well. I mean, your brand is magnetic. There's just something here. Did you always know that you were destined to do something big? Is this something you felt as a kid? Do you just feel like an average person just answering to your daily calling? Tell us a bit about that.
It's something that I knew was gonna, I knew there was gonna be something at the time. I didn't always know it was gonna be electrician per se. My dad's an electrician. It's something where, I grew up around it. So it really fit my calling, but it's something where I wasn't always, 100% sure. But, as I became older, my lower 20s, I'm 28 now. It's something that going into it, I definitely saw, a bigger picture. So it's something where it definitely it's definitely been a great experience and something that I've been looking forward to. So
About just over 2 years ago,
Mhm.
just over 2 years ago, then you would have been about 26. And we first connected and just started working. I think we spent 90 days together working on your pricing
Mhm.
and just some basic service principles to get this going. At that time, it might have been just you and a helper, end of 2022, right? Did you think you'd be here in 2025 from that standpoint?
no, definitely not. When I first started, like I said, when I reached out to you, it was just me by myself. I had the old couple $1,000 van with a really bare amount of tools and material in there. Really set me up for success. So I guess if I could tell anyone else, just get the coaching, get the mentorship as soon as possible. Invest a little bit of money because it'll definitely exponentially help you in the long run. When I started this, I was thinking, hey, in the next few years, maybe I'll get an apprentice or a guy to help me or something like that. Where
Mm.
now, we're looking at a 12-person staff after 2 years. So it's definitely grown a lot.
Do you think it's exceeding what you want? The way you say that, it's almost like a surprise that you're here. Or is this exactly what you're comfortable with now, what you want now? And tell us a bit about where you think you're headed as a brand.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when I first started, it was me by myself. As soon as I got about 2 to 3 vans rolling, I knew it was going to be all uphill from here. As soon as everything
Mhm.
clicked together and I got everything well rounded and all the systems in order. I mean, it's something that's been ongoing for sure. But realistically, this entire last year has just been scaling. Once you get everything in order and everything's building on top of it, I mean, it's scaling at this point, not just necessarily growth where growth is like, oh, I'm learning these things, I'm adapting things, scaling. It's like, okay, we're buying the vans, we have systems in order to get the people trained up, and it's a well-oiled machine at this point.
Yeah, it's a really good point. That's a really good point. That difference between growth and scale. I mean,
Mhm.
technically, one way to look at that is if you have that stable gross profit margin and you know what you're able to do with the processes you have in place, and you're able to train, you've got the people around you to help train that team up, then adding a van and adding a person could be something that's really just your next logical decision, not a big emotional hurdle. Just on that quick though, have you felt a speed wobble at all, Dan? Are there times where you maybe wake up with the sweats in the middle of the night, like most of us have many times before, and you go, oh God, what am I doing? Can I really do this? Or are you immune to that at this point?
This last year, it's been a lot less of that. As when I was a small one-man person, it was definitely a lot more. When I had a couple of people, it's like, oh man, this is a lot. As the more people go in and the systems get better and better in order, it's a lot less. It's not times where I don't have stressful days or stressful weeks for sure, but it's not nearly as much as it used to be. There was times where I was like, oh man, keeping me up at night, not sleeping, where now the system's in order so well that things are flowing awesome. I mean, to end this year, basically, it was the end of December, and I said, you know what? I can see where this growth is going. I'm ordering 2 vans. Didn't tell anyone. I said, we got 2 vans in order. And then, last week I said, oh yeah, well, we've got 2 guys starting. We've got 2 vans. We're switching to service type and we're doing this, we're doing this. And everyone just looking at me like, all right, take the torch and run with it. Like we know where this is
Let's
going.
go.
So we're ready to really hit the ground running.
That's remarkable. We mentioned in the beginning of this, you've become one of our first client coaches as well, client coach ambassadors. You've been able to lead a couple classes with us, and you're really the first person to ever do that with us. Although we realize it's a strength and something we're really proud to be able to help you as well be in that position. Why is it important though for you to give back to this community and to give back to other electricians? Why do you put skin in that game?
I love it to think back of where I was, and when I had just me by myself when I just started, or when I had a van or 2 vans or 3 vans. I know those pains that I felt at that time. And having someone I could lean on that says, hey, you should do this, you should do this, is such an awesome feeling to be able to help people and give back. When people reach out to me directly and say, hey, look, I've got this, what do you think I should do? I'd say, well, tell me a little bit about your business. What do you have going? And as soon as they start saying different things, you can directly key on key points and say, well, this is what I did, but here's what I'd recommend. There's a lot of learning pains that I had over the last couple of years that, if I could catch someone that had an earlier business, I would definitely give them a lot of pointers. So I love doing that.
You're a good man, Dan. You really are.
Really good stuff. Dan, do you have any last minute advice, something that you would like to tell all the people out there that may be watching or listening to this?
I would say get the mentorship, get the coaching as soon as possible, wherever it may be from. If it's someone that's doing better than you are, anyone that's, put yourself around the right type of people. It's all about who you surround yourself with. So, if you can surround yourself by people that are like-minded, that, have businesses, whether it may be a plumbing business, an HVAC business, a landscape business, surround yourself around the right side of people, get yourself the mentorship and the coaching, and, it's all a lot of growth from there.
I love
Good
that.
advice, brother.
Thank you so much for that. If someone were wanting to reach out to you, Dan, are you open to speaking with people if they're curious about your growth or how they might need to take next steps?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got social media as far as Facebook, Instagram. My personal one's a great way to reach out. My email's Daniel@dtelectriccompany spelled out.com. So that's a great one as well. Or you can always reach out through the SLE group directly, and I can help out on there.
I really appreciate that, man. This has been so much fun having you for a second year. We're so proud of you. And if I can just say on the topic of coaching, we do it too. Right? It's this is not a paid advertisement. This is another case study, another example of how you could really expedite your journey. And we love nothing more than bringing cases like Dan forward. Next week, we've got the Hayes Electrical team's going to join as well for a 2-year anniversary podcast. And I, for one, hope that we get to do 3-year anniversary podcasts with you guys. I hope we're so blessed to be able to do that as someone from, the mentee side of the relationships too. I can appreciate how much time that can save and just how many headaches that can solve, just having that group to be in. If you guys are listening to this and you've ever been part of a Reddit or a Facebook group, and the pain of asking a question, and the pain of then getting 90 different ways to skin that cat. Why is that still an expression? We should cancel that one. I don't know why, but you get 90 different ways.
Never thought of that.
Thing. Well, one of the nice things about being part of any better practice group, whether it's ours or someone else, is being in the room with people who are trying to do the same style of things as you in the same way. And that can be an absolute superpower. Dan, I want to thank you so much for your contribution, not just today, but to our teams, to our other clients, to this whole group and all the growth that we've experienced. And Joe, of course, my partner, super grateful for you. Super pumped that we get to work with your team direct, Dan. And I can't wait. I cannot wait to hear what's next from you, brother.
Love you both, guys.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
We'll see you guys next time. And that's a wrap for today's episode of the $1 Million Electrician Podcast.
We hope you're buzzing with new ideas that charged up to take your business to the next level.
So don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share the show with fellow electricians. Together, we'll keep the current flowing.